Hello and welcome to January's Breaking Barriers LinkedIn Live, brought to you by Shape Talent, the first of the year. We're delighted to welcome you. I'm Rachel Schofield, really pleased to be joined by not one but two brilliant guests today, who I will fully intro in a moment. But let me tell you what to expect today. We are talking about group coaching, why group coaching matters. Human connection in a changing world. That's the title. And we're leaning into the group and the human today, because group coaching is increasingly being adopted by HR, learning and development, DEI leaders as a very scalable and inclusive development solution. But people are still asking, well, what makes it really effective? Why does it matter right now? So over the next, 30 minutes or thereabouts, we're going to be exploring what group coaching really is, the impact it can have, why it works, and why human connection remains essential, especially as AI accelerates. I would love to invite you, just before I introduce our guests, to get involved in the chat. So perhaps you could share in the chat, have you experienced group coaching in any way? What is your experience, if any, of group coaching? Do tell us in the chat and I'll keep an eye on that while I introduce our guests. I am delighted to welcome, firstly, Professor Rebecca Jones. Rebecca is a leading expert in coaching effectiveness. She has a PhD in work and organisational psychology. She's a chartered occupational psychologist and a professor of coaching and organisational behaviour. And here with us at Shape Talent, she specialises in evidence-based coaching, inclusive leadership, and importantly, lasting behaviour change. So Rebecca gets the theory as well as the practice of group coaching, and it's great to have you with us, Rebecca. Hi to you.
Hi, thank you, Rachel. It's great to be here. We're talking about one of my favourite topics today, so I'm really looking forward to talking about group coaching. I think in my experience, it's one of the most powerful ways that we can develop people at scale. I know you know this as well as a fellow group coach at Shape Talent. And it's one of the ways, especially in this AI augmented world that we're living in, that we can really keep the developmental experience deeply human. So it's great to be here.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to dive into all of that. And also joining us, a special welcome to Sezin Doliva-Silav, who's a senior key account lead at Henkel Consumer Brands, managing one of the company's top customers, driving growth initiatives. Sezin has international experience across marketing and sales. And importantly, for today's context, she's a former Shape Talent program coachee. She's been through one of our leadership development programs and has been part of group coaching. So you're here, I know, to share your lived experience of group coaching, Sezin. It's great to have you with us. Thanks for making the time.
Thank you, Rachel. Very looking forward to join the session and share the experience. As said, I was part of a group coaching session as part of Henkel's female leadership program, and happy to share and join the session today.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. I'm just looking in the chat and I can't see any comments yet, so that's making me wonder if we've got some tech issues, but let's just see. If you're able to share with us, say hello and tell us about your experience of group coaching, we would love that. I will keep an eye on that. But in the meantime, let me tell you, we're going to, as I say, go for about half an hour. If you've got questions as we go, drop them in the comments in the chat, because I can look at those, and if we don't get to them in the course of the session, I shall certainly pick them up at the end. So oh no, I'm told all is well, so maybe we just need to warm you up a bit, everybody out there. Use the chat, say hi, tell us about group coaching, and do of course put your questions in there. Even if you're watching on replay, by the way, this sits on LinkedIn for infinity, which is lovely. So if you're catching up, do still put questions in the chat, engage in the conversation, because we always kind of check back in and love to get involved with folks. Okay, let's dive in first of all. And I think we're going to start with the basics, Rebecca, because not everybody will know what group coaching is. People might think, oh, is that just like a sort of a workshop? Is it training where we're all in a room with a coach who does something? So what is group coaching? What makes it different?
Yes. Yeah, it's a great question, Rachel, and it is a term that is still quite misunderstood in my experience, and the academic in me loves the definition, so I think it's always really important that we have that understanding about what we're talking about here. So at its core, group coaching is a coaching process delivered to a group, as the name suggests, where participants come together to work on real goals and challenges that they're facing, supported by a coach and, crucially, by one another. So you have your coach facilitating the process, but it also fosters peer coaching within the group. So it's different from training because it's not content-led. We don't know what's going to come up in the session until the participants, the coachees, bring their issue that they'd like to discuss. So in that way, it's very similar to one-to-one coaching. We can't prepare in advance. Whatever comes up in the room is what comes up in the room. And the coach isn't delivering knowledge. They are using those coaching skills to facilitate reflection. So the starting point is always participants, their context, their goals, whatever it is that they're navigating at that moment in time. And it's also different from team coaching. So the group is not normally or necessarily a team. They're a group. So they don't have shared goals, shared organisational objectives. Although they come together as a group, they're working on their own individual goals. So it's about bringing people together who often don't work together in a day-to-day basis, but often they have some sort of shared experience. So, for example, with Sezin's case, going through a leadership development program, a women's development program at the same time, or it might be people who are at a similar career level, or even it could be people who have got a similar shared experience, lived experience. So, for example, we can run menopause group coaching. So it's bringing people together who are all experiencing menopause and would benefit from some time together as a group to reflect on and explore this. So it's a really good way of bringing the depth of coaching with the power of group dynamics. And by bringing those two together, it supports this idea of group reflection, challenge and support, accountability, and the collective intelligence we get when we bring people together and create the conditions for us to share openly and vulnerably and learn from one another.
Thank you. I'm going to stay with you just for a quick follow-up question there, Rebecca, before I bring Sezin in, which is, I'm guessing because people are bringing what they might bring to a one-to-one coaching session, and we know as coaches that space can become quite vulnerable. It's very personal. Its confidentiality is important. I'm guessing creating a really kind of safe space in group coaching is important. I mean, what kind of size of group are we thinking about? How do we ensure that people feel safe to kind of bring and share and be vulnerable if they need to?
Yes, a great question. And the conditions that we create in group coaching are super important. And often I always, so I do a lot of group coaching myself, and I liken it to, where you have a swan gliding serenely across the surface of the river, but underneath perhaps their legs are going, yes, exactly. I think that as group coaches, that's what we're doing, because hopefully we create a sense of calm and what we call in psychology a container, if you like, to contain the group and ensure they feel held and safe. But there's a lot of work that's happening behind the scenes to make that happen. So the group coaching, I would say it's a minimum of 3. So it's not just a pair, so a minimum of 3. But we don't want a group that's too large, because then it becomes, obviously, the more people you've got, the harder it is to navigate those dynamics that arise whenever you bring a group of humans together. So I would say around a maximum of 8, with the optimal probably being around 5 to 6, because that's the great balance of having different perspectives, which is one of the benefits of group coaching, but the group's not too large that it becomes quite difficult to kind of manage in the moment.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for digging down a little bit there. Let me bring you in, Sezin, because I think from memory with Henkel, the groups were exactly 5 or 6. This was last year for you. So it would be really great to dive into your first-hand experience. Maybe you could share what group coaching was like, especially perhaps what stood out about being coached in a group setting versus kind of one-to-one.
Sure, happy to do so. And yes, we had a group of exactly 5 people. So it was a perfect group. We were, a group of different female talents coming from different countries with different jobs. So it was a very diverse group, which was very interesting. And what stood out for me about being coached in a group setting was the level of trust that was built in such a short time. So I was surprised myself that, that you come together with people you don't know, you have different challenges, you're being coached, and you also learn how to coach others. And sometimes someone would say something and it would just, unlock something else in my head about how I could approach a challenge myself. Or it would also, help me to come up with new open questions when acting as a coach and coaching the other coachee. So I think this was really great to build a safe environment in a smaller group, although not knowing each other. And what I also loved, and I think which is also key, and I think Rebecca touched upon this as well, it's the beauty of a group coaching session is that it really felt like a co-creation session. Imagine in marketing you want to come up with a lot of different ideas in a short time period. And then it's more, since you have 5 people or you're 4 plus yourself, you have different approaches, how to approach a question, a challenge, and then you also learn about the different questions. So it would really create a lot of ideas and approaches and also help yourself as a coachee to learn how to ask different questions and put yourself into the shoes of a coachee even better.
Yeah, and let me ask a bit more about that, because you're right. So when you're and I love to do this because I facilitate quite a lot of group coaching.
Yeah.
You're giving the people in the group a chance to be coached and to bring a live issue, but you're also supporting them to learn to coach. Some of them will have done it before. I don't know what your experience of coaching was like before, but do you feel like you were embracing the idea of coaching other women in that group, or did it feel a bit exposing to have to ask coaching questions? Of course, as humans, we often want to go straight in with like, oh, I totally get that. Yeah, that happened to me. Let me tell you what I did. Whereas, of course, you're being encouraged by the coach to really ask those open questions and stimulate that knowledge and ideas from the person in the hot seat.
Yes. No, I think certainly, especially as a leader, also in any type of management role or similar role in which you're having a leader and team member relationship, for instance, I think what you learned in the group coaching session was especially also, sharpening your listening skills, especially when you have so many participants. You'll learn how to, really take out the key message and understand the underlying reason of the specific behavior or the question or the challenge the coachee has in that specific context. So this is something which was super useful, which I also embraced, to come back to your question, because I think it helped me to become a better leader, also to understand how to ask even better questions, to understand how to, really take out the key points and to help and support the coachee in that context. So yes, I think it was a great experience to, first of all, kind of be coached by others. So find support or input how to approach your specific personal business problem or personal problem. At the same time, you also kind of learned how to improve your leadership skills, when it comes to people development and coaching other people.
Yeah. So a really clear impact there in terms of, impact on your own leadership journey, your skill set, and you talked about trust. We know as well about that collective intelligence that comes from the group. But so I wonder, when you reflect back on it now, and I think it's about a year ago, what has changed for you, do you think, as a result of the group coaching? What was the real impact?
Yeah, I think the real impact for me was that, any challenge can be normalized when you put it into context. So I think if you do not share that challenge, or if you are not showing kind of vulnerability and openness, you will not be able to find out how to approach it. And for me, that was key about group coaching, that, anyone would come with any challenge, and you would actually understand, okay, this is super normal. And yes, I had the same problem. Or how did you approach this? So it gives you a platform to exchange and also to open up your mindset. So it actually accelerates, or it opens up a mindset so that you can actually, share and find out how to solve any type of problem.
Yeah, I'm really interested actually that idea of you learn as well from other people's challenges, and you often listen and think, oh, that's very like something I had. I think sometimes people think, well, if I'm group coaching, I won't get so much time because I'm not just being coached one-to-one. But actually, I often hear, and you've just said it, people say, oh, I found it really interesting listening to Sarah being coached, or, John being coached, because actually I have got something quite similar and I took quite a lot from it.
That's true, for sure. And I think one point that I can also add on, is that this group coaching session gave me kind of not an excuse, but, it was scheduled in, it was a structured space where I could really take time to reflect. Usually in a high-paced, in a job where you are super busy and you don't have a lot of time, you could easily skip it. And also you could cancel a one-on-one coaching session more easily than when you have a group and you have a commitment to come together. I think that's another point which I found really impactful about group coaching.
Thank you. Yeah, the accountability that you get from it, absolutely, and the relationships that you build that create that trust. Thank you, Sezin. Let's think then, in the light of what Sezin has said about the impact that it had on her, the effectiveness. Rebecca, I know, as we said, you dive deep into why things work, if they work. We want things that are evidence-based at Shape Talent. So let's build on why it works. What does the evidence tell us about the why? What makes it effective?
Yes, yeah, great question. And in fact, Sezin's already touched on a number of, in terms of her experience of being a participant in group coaching, it exactly reflects what the theory tells us about why it's so powerful. So just for those that are interested, by the way, we've got a white paper on this very topic. So if you are the type of person who likes to delve deeply into it, by all means, check that out. I think my colleague's going to drop that into the chat. But there's a number of kind of mechanisms, if you like, that are at play in group coaching. And what I would say here is I'm going to focus on the things that are unique to group coaching, because of course what also happens is a lot of or pretty much all of the things that work well in one-to-one coaching also apply to group coaching, plus you've got these other things happening. So of course in one-to-one coaching we're using things like formulating goals, using reflection and open questions to create insight and awareness, and exploring actions and what we're going to do next. So all of that's happening, plus we've got some extra things that happen because we're in a group. So Sezin already talked about this normalization. So that's so powerful. I think we can't underestimate how important hearing that other people are experiencing the same challenges as us is. I mean, it sounds simple, and we know it's true, but yet we still tell ourselves these stories around, why am I struggling to cope with this? Everyone else is doing fine, especially in a kind of social media world where we're all presenting this best version of ourselves to everyone else to see. Group coaching is the space where we actually can be open and vulnerable and say, I'm really struggling with this. And that normalization creates a sense of belonging. So when we hear others describe similar challenges, it reduces isolation and it increases confidence. So this sense of I'm not alone, it's not just a nice to have, it's absolutely critical for resilience and performance. So group coaching provides a space for that to happen. So the second thing that happens in group coaching that we don't get in one-to-one coaching so much is around perspective and this idea of cognitive flexibility. So when we're in a group and we get to hear other people both share their challenges and, importantly, ask coaching questions, because we all get connected to different questions, we all get drawn to asking a different question, we get exposed to multiple viewpoints. And this can be super helpful to help us step beyond our kind of default assumptions, our default way of seeing the world. And it's like having a team of 6 coaches. You have the kind of official coach, if you like, and then you have all your other peer coaches as well, who come at your challenge with very different perspective. So this is really critical to help with deepening awareness and insight, and informs better decision making, and all of these great things. So the third thing is accountability. Again, Sezin touched on this. So not only do you feel a greater sense of accountability to show up in the first place, because the way that the group coaching is structured, you know, your participation as an individual is critical. You know, if you don't turn up, you're going to have it's not only affects you, it's going to affect your peers. But also when you commit to an action that you're going to work on, again, it's not rocket science, but when you say that to a group of people, guess what? You're much more likely to do it. And so we really find that it helps people to stay accountable, to keep progressing, to have that kind of forward momentum. And then it's this idea of psychological safety and skilled facilitation. So we've already touched on the role of the coach and how they're often working very hard kind of under the surface to create that safe space. And that's super important, because without that, we don't get the vulnerability, we don't get the deep reflection, we don't get the sharing, and things can remain quite superficial and kind of surface level. And we need that depth for the insight to happen. So that's another thing that's happening in that group context.
Yeah.
And so I suppose to kind of close, I would say one of the reasons I'm so committed to group coaching is because I think it's scalable. You know, budgets are always important. So this is a scalable solution, but it's so human still. It's not impersonal. It really creates the space for people to connect as humans, to support one another. And it's super powerful when it's done well.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. And just worth me reiterating from what Rebecca was saying there, that the white paper that Rebecca has pulled together we've dropped the link in the chat. So if you were thinking, oh yes, I'd love to see a little bit more about what the science and the evidence shows, then please do take a look at that. And also in the chat, I just wanted to pause for a moment and invite you, of course, do ask questions, do let us know what is resonating. We've got some hellos from Bournemouth and London and Switzerland and Manchester, which is great. So great to have you with us. Let us know, have you had group coaching? Does it echo what your experience is, what Sezin has said and what Rebecca has said? And questions, if you've got any, do drop them in, because I'll keep an eye on that. So definitely not coaching light, as you were saying, Rebecca. It's not a kind of poor man's coaching. And it's really interesting, actually. I was just recalling that Sharon Peake, our founder and CEO at Shape Talent, is an absolute convert, because it's now part of nearly all of our development programs. And I know she said when she first came across group coaching, she was like, well, why would you do that when you could do one-to-one? It must only be a kind of budget saving thing. And then she said, absolutely not. For all the reasons you've outlined, it adds so much value. Yes, it's scalable, but that's not actually what this is about. It's about all of the added value you get from it. I want to lean into what you were saying, Rebecca, and I'll start with Sezin on this one, actually. You were talking about the fact it's human. It's not impersonal, and the fact that in an increasingly kind of AI-dominated world, where actually you could probably use ChatGPT to do quite a good job on coaching, why get into a room? Why is it important? Sezin, I wonder what you think, because you know, it's a commitment, it's time. You could just sit looking at your computer and say, ask me questions about this challenge I've got, and yet group coaching, why does it feel important, even though there are other options with AI?
Yeah, good point. And I think honestly, AI agents can be a great sparring partner. If you want to ask a question, you get a feedback instantly, and then, you know, it writes you a smart answer and looks perfectly polished. Great. However, I think there are really great advantages of group coaching compared to AI, and something that AI cannot mimic or just try to do. So I think we've touched upon a few points. The main point for me is really this collective intelligence, or the collective ideas in a short time. So also ideas that are building on each other, and you are engaged and you're in the middle of a thought, thinking about a topic and in a process of, co-creating. So I think that is really remarkable about the group coaching sessions. I think the second point is about the commitment again, because AI, it could potentially send you a reminder, like a notification, oh, let's have a session together. But, you can just switch it off. There is no one waiting. There is no one waiting. There is nobody who will then, be disappointed because you're not joining. So I think it's much more difficult to, just cancel a meeting or break a commitment if you have a human person, a human being involved. That's a barrier. And for me, the third point is the topic of humanity or empathy. So of course, AI can try to, be empathetic, show emotions and feeling, but it will be just it will pretend to mimic that feeling. It will never feel 100% real. And I think our brains are so complex that, we will understand it's not a human being, and it will not have the same effect as we would have in a group coaching. So for me, yes, AI, great opportunity, maybe a short, quick Q&A session. How should I approach this and that in a one-on-one context? But in order to really, dive deeper into the issue, the challenge, and also, benefit from the collective intelligence, I think that's something that AI cannot do for you.
Yeah, thanks, Sezin. I'm going to come to questions in a moment. I can see something come in from Ruben. But before I do that, Rebecca, anything to add on the issue of why group coaching when a machine can spit out some quite clever questions?
Yes, yeah. I think, Sezin, you did a great job there of kind of highlighting a lot of the benefits. I mean, I would say, for me personally, I am a massive fan of AI. I think it's such a powerful tool. I think I understand why there's a lot of fear, because we're going through a revolution in terms of how we work. And that's scary because we don't know what things are going to look like on the other side. It will inevitably impact jobs, and we don't know what that's going to look like. And coaches are one of those groups of people that we think, well, am I going to be replaced by AI? And I have to say, it's incredibly impressive. My PhD was on coaching and personality. And so I have studied this in depth in terms of understanding how we can work with personality psychometrics in coaching sessions. And I've uploaded my personality profile into ChatGPT and asked it to coach me. And it is so sophisticated. It's amazing. However, we are not at the stage yet where it can replicate bringing together the power of a group of humans in the way that we've talked about. So that's why those mechanisms that I described earlier are so key, because all of those are around how one human relates to another human or a group of humans. So it's not just about powerful questions, which is a key part of coaching, but it's something else, something that's fundamentally human. Now, I'm not saying that in the future, maybe AI will do that, but it's definitely not there yet. It can be an excellent coaching tool. It can ask amazing coaching questions. It can get to know you really well, but it can't recreate that human connection, which is what group coaching is all about.
Yeah, brilliant. The power of the group. We're almost at time. I want to make space for Ruben's question, and I'll bring this to you, Rebecca, actually, because it's a kind of practical piece, and it's a really good question, actually. What if not all members of the group want to participate? Asked Ruben. Coaching works when there is will. So how do we manage resistant members of the group, Rebecca?
Such a great question. And in fact, there's a lot of research on this topic. So in one of my papers, I talk about what I call coaching motivation, which is the motivation to be coached. So this is critical from both a one-to-one coaching, team coaching, any form of coaching. That will to participate is critical, and it predicts outcomes. So it's a great question. I mean, what I would say is certainly at Shape Talent in our programs, the way that we structure group coaching is it's voluntary. So we're not forcing people to participate. We take a lot of time to encourage people to understand the benefits. And normally these are talent development programs. So people, it's a privilege to be selected to participate in one of these programs. But as a coach, you need to sometimes work with resistance. And I would say skepticism is the key part. And what I always say to a skeptic that comes into one of my group coaching sessions is, that's okay. I'm going to ask you to hold that and give it a go. Let's experiment. And then let's see afterwards how you've experienced it. And I've got 100% convert rate at the moment, I would say. So I guess as the coach, it's about engaging people up front and then being okay to hold that space for skepticism, but encouraging that curiosity and experimentation.
Yeah, brilliant. And I can see in the chat as well, some of our colleagues, Caroline, who's worked with Shape Talent, and Ailish, who's one of our coaches, saying, you know, it's all about building trust first so that people feel safe to kind of participate. I could see you nodding. I'll just give you the final word there, Sezin. Did you have anything to add?
No, I was, yes. Yes, I was thinking Ailish, and obviously Ailish was actually our coach, professional coach in the team, and it makes a difference to have someone obviously professional facilitating the whole session, and then also coping with maybe skepticism and, you know, let's say curious people and participants. So it was a great experience, and also thank you to Ailish, who's probably listening right now.
We absolutely are. Thank you, Sezin. And let me just finish then by, while we're talking about that word curious, if you are curious about group coaching, how it might work in your organisation, then please do follow up with us. You can reach out to us, arrange to speak to Rebecca, for example, by contacting info@shapetalent.com. You can drop us an email, visit our website. We'll drop some of this into the chat as well, so that you can see. Keep the conversation going. If you've got questions that you want to follow up, you can reach out to us directly. You can put something in the chat. We'll keep an eye on that. Have a look at the white paper and put in your diary our next LinkedIn Live, which is happening on the Thursday, the 26th of February. We do these monthly at 2 o'clock. We talk a lot about AI today. We're leaning into that next month. AI transformation, how HR can prepare leaders and talent. Really great to have had you with us. It only remains me to say a huge thank you, particularly to Sezin, who has experienced group coaching as part of a Shape Talent program, and of course to our very own Rebecca Jones, who's an expert in this field. Thank you so much, both of you. Wonderful to have you with me today, and we'll see you again. Take care, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.